Hello everyone, I am VP31 and today we are watching HeyitsGMan's all 2D moves run for Super Mario Odyssey. How you doing, G-Man? Alright, good stuff. So, yeah, sounds great. So, basically the way this run works is it's a post-game category, so timing is going to start a little bit differently than other categories. It'll start on the last cutscene skip before entering Moon Kingdom, so we'll do a nice countdown to start off when he selects a kingdom. So, G-Man, feel free to head off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. So, this is not technically the official run start of the timing, but it will happen quite shortly. Again, the last cutscene skip going into Moon. But essentially the goal of this category is to get all the 2D moons in a post-game save file, and it's pretty interesting because the 2D moons aren't that optimized overall because the only categories that they're really seen in are AUM and 100%, and again, those categories are more about consistency than optimization. So, some common 2D, the basics of 2D movement are you only gain speed while you're on the ground. However, that speed that you have while on the ground is carried through while you're in the air as well. So even if you're going in a different direction, you can speed up all the way basically to full speed that you left the ground with, even if you just completely reverse directions into the air. This is more evident in Moon Kingdom because of the gravity physics. He was at a complete stop basically when he left the ground, but he did have some speed and momentum from when he landed originally, so able to go through. And now, going to be entering one of the more tedious sub-areas in the run, but also has one of the coolest skips that kind of abuses the fact that you maintain momentum so well in 2D. So essentially what he's going to be doing is running around this the circle platform a single time, and that'll give him enough speed to get a moon jump potentially, and that'll let him get over to the next platform. So almost, unfortunately, not getting it first try, but not getting it, but still. Yeah. Yeah, nice. So now, wait. Barely missing the cycle, but we'll see what happens. Should be finished up the sub area, and then after this, that'll do it for Moon Kingdom. Warping out of the sub area, and unfortunate death. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it can be pretty hard to keep your speed around the around there because you have to adjust. You have to spin your control stick in a pretty precise method. So kind of similar to spin pounding, but different timing. Yeah. Essentially, there's not much 3D movement in this category, but we'll see more of it in Lost Kingdom and a little bit in Ruin. But basically, the fastest way to move in this game is rolling when you're not in 2D in a 2D section. So you're going to try to do that as much as possible, but again, mostly going to be in 2D sections throughout this whole run. So to start off Ruin Kingdom, going to have to roll over to capture the wire that you take to normally fight the dragon, but since it's a post-game category, I'm not going to be fighting a dragon. Instead, going to capture the rocket and go to the sub-area that a lot of people don't really like, but it's not too hard to optimize, although the switch state does matter for whether you're able to get to the next section or not. So we'll have to see what pattern he has to deal with. The second set of P-switches is a little bit more precise to deal with, but the first one you can make work with literally any pattern. So, but the second one, I believe there's only 3 or so that work. So, have to make sure to get at least one of them in the proper orientation. Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yeah, pretty clean overall. And then the last one has to be completely perfect, otherwise it won't work. So, technically you can make the first cycle on the second one if you spin throw both of them at the same time, but that's really precise and basically a run killer in a non-marathon, so not worth it. So that is going to do it for Ruin Kingdom. Next up on the list is Lost. Lost is probably the most similar kingdom to any percent because you start off doing Meme Tree and doing a nice jump off of the tree, getting over to the 2D section. It's about a second faster than just warping to the checkpoint by the 2D section when done optimally, because after you grab the moon you can just death warp and end up back at the Odyssey. So hopefully going to be seeing some clean movement there. G-Man pretty good at any percent, like just pretty good, you know. Only has a better PD by like 40 seconds. So hopefully this goes well. After in the 2D area, he's going to have to do some nice jumps off of the question mark block in order to make it over there fast enough. Well, yeah. Simplified Chinese is technically the fastest language. Oh, unfortunate death. Is technically the fastest language for this category, but it hardly matters just because there's not that many text boxes. But it saves a few frames when loading. But that's about it. Unfortunately, the 2D movement in this area is not easy. Really have to plan out where you use the momentum that you gain and manage it properly to get the dives. Just taking the warp, playing it safer. Smart decision. So now, unfortunately, the reason warping is slower is you have to wait for the cycle in order to warp back to the Odyssey rather than take a death warp. Theoretically, you can warp the same frame you land in the poison, and that would make warping over to that area just a little bit faster than doing Meme Tree in that movement, but that's almost a frame perfect trick, so not worth going for. Up next we have Cloud. Some more similar any percent movement, but not. That's about where the similarity changes. You just spin throw, roll cancel, and jump off the clouds, and then into the 2D area you go. So this 2D area, you have to manage how many hits you take pretty well. It's pretty straightforward, but if you take 3 damage, obviously you're going to die, and it's really easy when you're going fast and damage boosting through enemies. It's really easy to get 2 hits before entering the last section, and then you either have to wait for a cycle to complete, in order to avoid getting hit another time, or you just end up accidentally hitting the fuzzies at the end section. But very nicely done from G-Man. Clean movement, and not even have to wait for the cycle, so very nice overall. And that'll do it for Cloud Kingdom, and this is where we enter the painting chain. Sand, Sand is the kingdom we start the kingdom progression with, because you go through the paintings in a reverse order, ending up at Metro Kingdom to finish, and this is just the most optimal kingdom to start off in, because we end in Festival. I'll get more to that later when we get there, but essentially the main 2D section in Sand, there's a Notes Moon and a 2D moon that's hidden behind a spot in the mural. So it's also very cycle based on how the bullet bills spawn, and you're able to bounce off of the bullet bills to skip a platform cycle, but that can be pretty precise, so we'll have to see whether G-Man's able to get that, but it doesn't matter how fast you enter the pipe or really how fast you move in the 2D section itself. But just have to get the Notes Moon in good time to line up with the bullet bill cycle. Not sure if this is going to work, but could be close. Yeah, this might work. Pretty good alignment, and unfortunately not skipping the cycle with the trick because it was, the delay was a little too much, but did get the skip, so nice job for that. Accounting for the large amount of momentum you get from the bullet bills is pretty difficult. Yeah, for sure. And now entering the inverted pyramid for the last Sand Kingdom 2D moon. There's a camera manipulation strat you probably noticed at the beginning of the inverted pyramid. He angled his camera far left, and in order to avoid looking at the upside down section, that essentially makes the bullet bills spawn in a way such that he doesn't have to take damage to them. Taking damage is not ideal, not just because taking damage is bad, but also because it puts you in a state where you can't move for about a second, and then also there's a refill cutscene whenever you grab a moon that's about 2 seconds. So you have to pick and choose where you decide to damage boost pretty carefully, because taking damage when you don't need to is pretty significantly slower, especially in a short category. So now going over to Wooded Kingdom via the painting. As I mentioned, we're going in a reverse order, meaning we're going through the paintings that you cannot normally go through unless you have the checkpoints activated. So now in Wooded Kingdom, pretty straightforward, but exiting the painting, you probably noticed he got a little bit closer to where he's warping, because you can't warp for a specific amount of time before going to a checkpoint, so you want to roll as close to the checkpoint as possible. That way the line on the map is just a little bit shorter, saves a few frames, and pretty easy to do. So this 2D area is very simple, not much to do. You just basically can't get caught on the lip that he very nicely avoided, and then you make this cycle. There's no way to start it a little bit earlier, but even if there were, it's pretty precise on its own. And solid wooded overall. Now, going to Seaside Kingdom. This is another cycle-based kingdom, but it's more based on one of the yellow platforms. If you're able to go fast enough if you go fast enough at the beginning of the kingdom, you can activate some invisible blocks you need later on in enough time to skip having to wait for it, come back. So we'll see if G-Man's able to get that, but if he's not, he'll probably just go there before collecting the secret moon. But that should work, maybe. Maybe not. Not entirely sure. You have to be pretty fast to make this work. So kicking the Koopa shell into the wooded brick, and the little hiccup getting into the cubby there is definitely going to cost him making a really good cycle, but so we're gonna have to wait for the yellow platform, unfortunately. Wait, you can do that? Okay. Wow. Shows what I know. Yeah, apparently you can actually bounce off the Koopa shell there. So, either way, making the cycle is very slightly faster than that, but very nice backup from G-Man. I wish I'd known that when I was running this category. I ran into that problem so much. Very nice notes as well. Those can be very annoying, especially with the Koopas, but not taking any damage. Impressive stuff. So now going over to the hot springs to get Title Challenge 1. And pretty straightforward moon, basically the same as you would normally get it casually, but the timer is not lenient, even from a casual perspective, so it's still a pretty risky moon, but hopefully he's able to get it first try. Getting a nice dive into the pipe, well, water dive I guess, but pretty simple, breaking the blocks, and there's the moon. Now, entering Bowser's Kingdom, you might have noticed that he's not in the normal Mario outfit. Instead, he's wearing these clunky samurai clothes. Like, why? It's heavy, must be weighing on him a lot while moving through the kingdoms, but alas, this ban in front of the door requires you to be wearing it to let you in, so unfortunate, but has to be done. Hopefully he's able to change sometime later in the run, but we'll see what happens. So inside the samurai sub area, there's a notes moon that has some pretty precise movement going on in it, but and you have to be pretty precise to make the perfect cycle, and not take damage on the Koopa shell. But essentially, he'll be kicking the Koopa shell into 6 music notes to make the moon spawn just a little bit earlier. Not taking damage on the Koopa shell, very nice. And then clean notes overall. Oh, barely missing the last 3, but last 3 music notes, but I'm not going to lose too much time. Very nice backup. But in this last room, there is a strategy where you can, if you're very precise, you can break the block with the Koopa shell and then slide into it. If you're very quick, and he's getting it, barely not faster, just because had to wait for the Koopa shell to come back around the second time anyway. But very nice. That's not easy to do at all. Now going into Cascade, technically it is faster to go for DSS. Dino skip here that allows you to get up to the 2D section a little bit faster than warping does. So you're gonna go for that once potentially. No, not quite. Instead, warping up top and entering the 2D sub area that way. So in this 2D area, you are going to spawn the notes moon before getting the other moon that's a little bit more on the way, because the notes timer is a little bit too tight to get behind the waterfall in the middle of collecting the notes. So doing that, and then entering a 2D sub area with a neat little trick jump over to skip a big 2D section of the room. Ironic that this is a category based around the 2D sections, but skipping one saves about 8 seconds, so we'll see how quickly he's able to get that. Ooh, almost getting a pass setup, but yeah, waiting to get a triple throw from Cappy. The third throw you do with Cappy is significantly faster than a normal speed cap throw, so he does 2 throws to set up the jump. That way he can quickly get the next few. So Now getting a final moon in Cascade and warping out, going to Snow. And now Snow, man. Yeah, I imagine Mario's getting pretty tired of this armor, so hopefully he'll have a chance to change into something a little bit warmer than his nice metal outfit going into such a cold kingdom. And sure enough, he is. The 2D area in this room actually does require you to be wearing the Snow Kingdom outfit, so I'm going to be putting on his coat. Mario going to be putting on his coat and getting a little bit warmer going into the next sub area. Visiting the shop because it's the most on the way changing station. So, and this sub area has one of the neatest tricks in this run. It's kind of where you notice the fact that Mario's momentum doesn't matter which direction he's going while he's in the air. So this trick abuses that fact, and you're able to skip a very large portion of the sub area by doing so. So hopefully he's able to get it first try, but even like 5th try definitely saves a lot of time. Second try, that is nice. Saving a lot of time with that. And an extra bonus of this trick is you don't have to deal with the horrendous ice physics in this game. So, well done to HeyitsGMan. Next up on the list is Mushroom Kingdom. And Mushroom, despite being a pretty straightforward kingdom, is probably the scariest one in this run. The sub area in Lunching that has 2D moons is a very long auto scroller and super easy to take a death on. It's not the most doesn't have very precise tricks like the one in Snow, but it's also very, very tough not to die, and dying loses a minute to a minute and a half depending on where it happens. So definitely a very scary area. We'll just have to hope that G-Man gets his first try. There is a slight skip, it's more of a manipulation. In the middle section, while the auto scroller that goes vertically is working, you can angle the camera upward to make the next part a little bit faster, but have to get there. Can completely understand if you don't go for that, because adjusting the camera angle while in the 2D section is quite tedious, and unfortunately, taking a death there not going to cost an incredible amount since it's close to the beginning of the sub area, but nonetheless, it is an auto scroller, so you're going to be losing a lot of time for each death. So going for it again, the Secret Moon can be done a few ways. Bouncing off these bullet bills, you can either bounce off one or bounce off a ton for extra swag points, but yeah, that's a heck of a lot harder, so don't at all blame him for not going for that. The next moon is basically just completing this incredibly long and boring section, so let's see. G-Man will probably go for a jump between one of these small gaps so he can set up the camera manip without moving, and it's a little bit less tedious. Let's see. Oh, yeah, just skip it. Yep, smart decision. If you miss that more than, if you don't get that in the first few tries, it's basically always better just to skip it, play it safe, and go for the next one. But making it through at least in my opinion, the scariest part of the sub area unscathed, and now just has to avoid as much damage as possible in this last part. Dodging the fuzzies, nicely done. And that'll be about it. So, Luncheon Kingdom, the third to last one in the run, there's a neat little skip called the best named skip in the entire game. It's called Foodie Skip. You might have heard of 2D Skip in Bowser's Kingdom and Any %, where you go through where you just do a nice jump around an edge. This is foodie skip because it's in a 2D area underneath the sub area. Definitely the best name skip in the game. Don't question it. So hopefully G-Man will get that first try, but it's somewhat risky. But again, this also abuses the fact that your momentum while moving, it doesn't really depend on the direction you're going. You can go forward, then go back, and still keep the same amount of momentum, and then make the jump. But unfortunately, taking a death there, it's a pretty precise trick. So you got to jump off the very edge of the platform and have enough speed to make it. So hopefully he'll get it this try. Yeah, again, just not jumping quite late enough, unfortunately. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, if you notice, Mario's toe dips a little bit below the platform when you're about to get the trick, so that's kind of indication whether you jumped at the right time. It can be a little bit beforehand, but basically have an assurance that you got the trick if Mario's toe dips down a little bit before you go for the jump. So now Lake Kingdom, one of the quicker kingdoms, similar to Wooded, only has one 2D moon, and it's pretty straightforward. You just collect a few notes on the wall and then warp out, head to Metro. So hopefully no notes fail. I have done that before. It's quite the time loss, but activate the main, I guess, trick to this is activating the yellow platform as soon as possible, and then collecting the last few notes as soon as possible. But other than that, there's not much of a trick to this 2D move. But now we've got the last kingdom in the run, which is Metro Kingdom. The reason that we want to end in Metro is because we get to take a little nostalgia trip and see 1-1 and then finish off in the festival. And the festival does not have quick easy access to the painting, so best to end off in Metro. But first, before that, we got to get to the private room. There's some pretty nice note collection, very fast with some spin throws, and then obviously in the 2D section, optimizing the movement to get it in there. This is one of the few 2D moon. This is the only technically 2D moon that incorporates both 2D and 3D movement. There's another one in Mushroom Kingdom that technically spawns the moon outside of the 3D section that also incorporates both 2D and 3D movement to get the moon, but very unique moon in this game. Now we got 1-1. We're going to be taking the secret exit. So pretty clean 1-1. Now warping over to City Hall, talking to the man himself, and who will send you to the festival. And this is where we get the last moon in the room. Unfortunately, the festival multi-moon itself is not a 2D moon, so timing will end on the moon tick of the festival season. But should be coming up very shortly. The trick to this is mostly just avoiding damage and keeping your keeping momentum going as much as possible by taking tight lines around corners and avoiding ledges as much as possible. But other than that, pretty straightforward section. So about done with the run. Time will end on Moontick, and if G-Man could say when that happens, that would be great. Nice. Congratulations. You want to finish off Donkey Kong for the run? Or what's up? Yeah, nice. Alright, cool. So yeah, that'll do it. Pretty decent run overall, 28:33. Well done to G-Man. Oh yeah, and this is a pretty tough category to get a consistently fast time in. But playing pretty well overall, got all the major skips. So very nicely done, and I'm just going to finish off Donkey Kong. That'll do it for all 2D moons. Thank you guys so much for watching. You got this. You believe in me. And there it is. Sure, why not? Alright, so that'll do it for all 2D moons. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and we'll kick it off to the next event. Any last words, G-Man? Alright, good.
Alrighty, everyone. So that was that. We had Super Mario Odyssey on Powerhouse, all 2D moons. But now we have Pokemon Puzzle League coming up, which is going to be played on Super Hard. This is going to be our last run with me as host. And afterwards, we are going to have Kuno Demetrius, and we are going to also have Shane Kills coming over as our restreamer for next few runs. Currently, it looks like we are getting ourselves ready for Pokemon Puzzle League, which is actually not meant to be my final run host. I'm meant to be hosting. I'm meant to be doing other stuff. But yeah. Got Pokemon Puzzle League coming up, everyone.